Hi, this is Carrie Margaret from Create Love. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I wanted to talk a bit about completion and forgiveness and self-forgiveness and really releasing the past and stepping into the present and the future and possibility. So this is the time of the year. Today is January 2nd, 2024, and this is the time of the year when so many people set New Year's resolutions or do year-end reviews and set their intentions for the next year, whether that's, intentions, a word for the year, goals, new visions. And I think there's a lot of energy around this date. One of the amazing things about time and spaces when there's a lot of people doing the same thing, it kind of creates this energy that it is a great time for completing with the old and being reborn and starting with the new. And so I wanted to go into a little bit of my year in review and then talk a bit about one thing that I think that gets left out a bit is forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, letting go and completion and kind of clearing the slate. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about my past year, 2023. So I am still in the middle of kind of my review of the year and lesson learned and all of that, and really looking back. And I really wanted to do this video for you, so I'll just share some bits and pieces. So this year I started the Create Love podcast and YouTube channel. And I think I've published about 10 videos. 2 of those were the trailer, so that's actually about like 8 videos of interviews and videos of myself. And it's interesting, I started the project with greater expectations of publishing more and creating more. And in my year-end review is actually just really celebrating that I put it out there and that I started it. And that this was something that had come into me through a visioning practice. I have a friend who's an amazing healer and shaman, and he gave me this guided meditation practice, and the name came to me, Create Love, and the vision for it. And so in terms of celebrating, I really wanted to celebrate that I started it, that I put myself out there. I think there's something like 25 subscribers, not a huge amount of growth. And it is a huge thing to start creative projects and to be in the motion of doing. Actually, talking about that, I read this amazing book, Feel Good Productivity, by one of my sort of informal mentors related to YouTube. And one of the things Ali, the author, talks about is he talks about how he wanted to start a YouTube channel, I think in 2010. And he worked through different things and layers of procrastination in terms of actually starting it, and he started it in 2017. Now he's given us the benefit of this great book, Feel Good Productivity. He's one of the top YouTubers in the productivity space, and then also a lot of knowledge, video, and courses for people that are aspiring creators and people that want to share and influence and help the world through YouTube. And one of those great pieces in terms of reading from this book was this idea that we tend to give ourselves a hard time about things, and just reading that he wanted to start the channel in 2010 and then finally did it in 2017, and sort of the trials of that was really, really powerful for me. In some ways, when I was at first looking back at this past year and the level of publishing that I'd done and what I'd put out there, it really didn't fulfill my expectation. And so, I got into a little bit of the whole thing of this psychological assessment and getting down on myself and all of this stuff that actually really interestingly related to productivity. One of the things that people who procrastinate and have trouble with perfection or putting themselves out into the world struggle with is sort of beating themselves up or putting themselves down when they don't perform or do as much as they want to do. So it was really just a beautiful piece of learning for me to see somebody who's become so successful in YouTube and sort of his process of self-forgiveness and letting go and finding the play and joy in things and moving forward. That said, it's very helpful to set like goals and realistic goals and put yourself out there and stretch, right? So that's one of the things that I get to do in the next year. And this piece of forgiving ourselves where we didn't quite meet our expectations, I think is really huge. And it's one of the things that I don't think is talked about much and really taught in sort of the hustle, productivity culture. So that was a piece in terms of self-forgiveness, just kind of letting go of my creative expectations. And then learning through that I can set the intention, set the declaration, be, more clear about time blocking or different things and strategies and systems that will bring me into a greater level of publishing and just kind of surrender and enjoy the process and be more playful about it. Another great tip from this book is incorporating play. So I'll talk a little bit more about play in a moment because I think my word for the year is going to be playful. Another piece, a really big piece related to this was a level of fear that I felt about sort of being figured out or not saying the right things or not, showing up in the right way. And it's really interesting. I remember when I was a younger version of me, when I was in college, I had a radio show as a women's affairs radio show, and I did interviews and did these shows. And I always had this interest and desire, and have loved deep conversations and talking to people and then pulling out common threads in humanity and psychology. This Women's Affairs program, a lot of what I did was about really about human rights and different issues in humanity and human psychology and all this stuff. And I've always really been interested in that. And I realized in the process of this and in doing the year review and a leadership program that I'm in the middle of, that I get to show up messy and human, and people are going to see all sides of me, and they're going to see the messy sides too. One of my big fears was, one of the things that sort of launched my desire and sort of to figure out relationships between men and women and relationships in general was my own experience in, pretty long marriage that ended in divorce and a modern family, and the struggles that I felt with sort of coming to completion with that and the roles that I played and all of that, and sort of the fear of how to weave that in and how to represent that and what that meant and all of this. And really, I came to realize that my role here is the role of the curious investigator, that relationships really are a science and an art. And the fact that my marriage, didn't work out in the end was actually really positive for both of us and for our children. And it was a huge prompt for me to like figure this stuff out and learn more about it. And, it brought me to the place that I am today, to be this person that is so immensely curious about relationships and what really makes them work, and then what really makes them dysfunctional, and like the patterns that we run. So I got to come into a new level of relaxation about what my story is and really owning it. So that was an amazing part of this year. Another part of that, like another layer of that, that I really feel like I want to share. And it's so interesting how I'm finding my level of comfortability of what I want to share and what feels vulnerable, what feels too much, what feels like it's not enough, and in terms of connecting and making this real and valuable for you. And for myself in the process is another piece that is really interesting about this year was I set this intention in January to love all sides of myself, even the sides that like I use the word detest, which is such a strong word for me, but like the sides of myself that I couldn't stand, the sides that are like so hard for me to deal with of myself. And I really believe that we all have all the sides, so we all have all the things. And the more that we sort of like react to ourselves or to the world, it's kind of like this lack of acceptance of like all sides of humanity. And I wanted to own and just love all sides of me. And this year I did a lot of shadow work, and I did a lot of exploration, and I've been doing that, for quite a bit. But there is something about that intention. There's something about our intentions that we set that I think create like a powerful chain of events out into the world. Whether it's because you believe in, if you like to listen to neuroscience, and it's because the brain is then activated in those areas, and it's kind of looking and scanning for possibilities to solve whatever problem we want to solve or create whatever intention we want to create. Or if you believe in kind of this like new thought movement of like manifestation and intention, and then that, like we align with energy. There's a lot of new age thought right now, like in the world that we live in or paradigm that we live in, whatever area you might want to come to, in terms of like setting intentions. What is amazing is there is something that happens both on a brain level and I believe on an energetic level in terms of aligning things, to bring in that possibility of that intention. And the way that the year flowed was really, really interesting in that way. And there are a lot of things that I could share about that. One of the main things was, as I'm recording this video right now, I am creating a course that's called Radiance. It is for women. It's a course about self-love and self-adoration and like owning our own essence and our own radiance as women. And I really believe that came out of that intention. That came out of that intention of owning all sides of myself, and accepting all sides of myself, and kind of finally realizing that there was really nothing wrong with me. Yes, there's a messy, imperfect human, and there was nothing ever wrong with me. There was nothing ever that needed to be fixed. And I've had different levels of like realizations of this. Oh, like I actually don't need fixing, or, and I think one of the interesting things about relationships, romantic relationships, or other types of relationships that we put ourselves in is that, or that we become part of, is that like sometimes some relationships leave us feeling less healthy than others. And sometimes our relationship with ourselves is less healthy than it could be. And sometimes there's a dance between the two. And I finally really realized that this messy, imperfect human is like myself is just masculine, just, perfect in my imperfection and in my essence, and that a lot of radiance, a lot of life comes from that. A lot of life comes from just like accepting and loving the authenticity of who we are. And so at the end of the course of of this whole year and this process, I got to a space where I can really bring out this thing into the world that means a lot to me. It means a lot to me for people to be able to find a deep love of self, and then deep love with other people and connection with other people, to really be able to identify and live in their gifts, and then build on them, build on the skills that bring out their strengths and their gifts. Because I think that we're all so worthy, and we all have so many incredible gifts. And this course for women is very exciting to me, because I think that women, you can call it the patriarchy or whatever else, the thought systems and all the things that create all these constructions of femininity and masculinity and what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. And so many women are taught to think that they're not enough, that they're not attractive enough, that they're not good enough, that they're not good enough about, at all different areas. And I love that I get to bring this out into the world now, and to help and support women seeing like their radiance, within themselves. And that like every woman has her own signature radiance, and her own worth and story and essence to share with the world, and wonderful strengths and skills to build on. So that felt pretty amazing this past year. And then the level of forgiveness in this whole process, forgiving myself for ever thinking that there was something wrong with me, forgiving the people in my life that played a role in reinforcing that, releasing all of those things, coming into completion, and realizing that we can all learn new ways of being, that blame doesn't really serve us, and we get to move forward and learn skills to have really empowering relationships and really inspiring relationships. And I think a lot of relationships actually is forgiving and letting go of the past, knowing when it's time to be in total completion with somebody, knowing when it's time to just release and forgive and not take something so personally. Knowing which relationships are aligned, like the discernment and all of that. And I think as women, in this whole year exploration of Create Love, and then my ongoing interest in the science and love and the science and art of relationships in all forms, really. I think that, as women, like one of the really powerful things is for us to be like in our radiance, and realizing the gifts that we bring in our radiance, and really owning our boundaries in all different levels and all different areas. And then just playfully like being in the world that way. It's really playful and fun to, whether it's, a stage of dating, like to entertain different people, different suitors. I use like old-fashioned language sometimes, but I think that, there is a beauty in the word suitor when a man is like showing up in pursuit and in desire, in like masculine energy. And as a suitor, it's fun to be in that playful exchange with suitors, and like doing it with grace and dignity and kindness and playfulness. One of the things that I got to learn this past year and just like be more in a space of is I felt like it was my need to like uplift and support and show everybody, like make everybody right, make everybody, like uplift everybody in my life. You know, partly because I'd experienced some things that were pretty painful where people, you know, weren't that uplifting to me and did harmful things to me. And I didn't really want anybody else to experience that, especially like in something as vulnerable as like romance. And so I've done, you know, all these things of like uplifting all these different people. And like that, you know, isn't as much of that like playful and fun, challenging energy as it's kind of like fun to be in now. So anyways, we get to grow and go through different versions of ourselves and play with different sides of ourselves. And yeah, all of that is a bit of a fun completion of this year. And there were, you know, losses this year, and so many of us are going through sort of waves and challenging times, whether that's like internal storms or external things that are shifting. And one of the things that I really love about forgiveness of self, forgiveness of other, and like completion energy is that we get to forgive ourselves. We get to forgive ourselves for our own humanity. We get to be in the messiness of things that come up, and whatever emotions those are. I remember like, well, this past year, I did this really amazing leadership program that I'm still in the middle of. One of the things that I've learned, so many things, one of the things that I learned was my inability to really accept sadness and anger and express them, to accept them and express them. I kind of wanted to just shove them down, both emotions, anger and fear, like very human emotions. Not fear, anger, and sadness. So probably fear as well. Probably fear, anger, sadness would all go into areas of things that I just wanted to shove down. And what is amazing about the things that we shove down is then that people feel it around us. So they'll feel like low level anger. For me, anger usually came out in terms of like resentment, which is actually, resentment is the most beautiful emotion. People think it's so terrible, and it's the most beautiful emotion because it teaches us that there's something underneath the resentment to grieve and to let go of and to forgive, and grieving what wasn't there. You know, the resentment is usually about a person not experiencing something they want in their own life or in a relationship of any kind, like family relationship, romantic relationship, friendship, any of that. And it's really a space for like grief, for letting go of maybe the expectation or the desire or something that they wanted there, and grieving it. And sadness, I, with a coach of mine in this leadership program, got to take on, I'm just taking the time, setting aside times to feel sad. And I feel that sadness was kind of this like pervasive feeling that was around me a lot. And I really wasn't allowing myself to take those times to feel sad, to feel that underlying emotion and what it wanted to show me. And all of our emotions want to show us something. So yeah, that was, you know, another layer of like experiencing more of me. And then being able to forgive others, forgive myself, get complete, let go, experience all of me. And then like in experiencing the rainbow, no one piece becomes like that much more important than the other. which was pretty magical. So yeah, that's a bit of my year in review. I'm still doing it. Feeling, especially now, feeling much more brave. Even this is a long video and it's longer than I would necessarily, or longer than I might want it to be. And I might not edit it at all. I might just like throw it right up there without any edits. Just as a show to myself that it is important to be imperfect and to be messy and to be human. And some people watch a little, some people will watch a lot, and there'll be a lot more videos that will be coming, especially with this space of being able to move in to being messy and human and just wanting to serve you while expressing myself and this area that I'm so excited about. You know, human relationships really are a science and an art. There is so much complexity in so many different situations, and that's why we can hear so many different voices about dynamics, because everybody brings their own filter of experience. And also there's so many different shades of gray of what happens between people. And there are principles that, you know, help relationships to really thrive, to create more love. I no longer think that you can create, I don't think that you can create a feeling of being in love with anybody. I think that it is something, there is a piece of magic in that, that is very unique and special. I think you can create limerence. I think there's a lot of implications there, and there's a whole lot of people teaching like how to create limerence. I think that like deep love is, you can create more love, and you can create the conditions for alignment, and you can create the conditions for those connections, and you can be a great partner, and you can be a fun person to date, or a fun person to taking people on dates. You can do all of those things, and I think there is a certain level of magic that is involved in love, and romantic love, and friendship love, and family love, and there are a lot of principles to create more of that, and more connection. So I am wishing for you a great amount of completion and forgiveness of others, of circumstances, especially of yourself, and wishing you beautiful visions and dreams for this next year moving forward. It'll be all the things, because life is all the things. It really is all the things. And we get to practice being intentional and creative in what we want to create and experience out in the world, and how we want to respond to life, and the types of experiences that we want to create. So wishing you lots of dreams and visions for 2024. I'm looking forward to my intentional, playful 2024. Sending you all so much love.